Today, we're jumping into Suba Jain's The Satvic Food Book. We're going to explore this really ancient philosophy that says food isn't just fuel, it's literally the architect of how we feel, think, and live. Let's dive right in.
I mean, really think about that for a second. What if every single meal you ate was a choice that could pull you toward a state of happiness and clarity, or push you toward restlessness and feeling down? This isn't some new age fad. It's an ancient idea suggesting that the key to a better life might just be sitting right there on your plate.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to uncover what the book calls the 3 hitting modes of nature and how they show up in your food. Then we'll get super practical with 4 core principles of a Satvic diet. And finally, we'll get into the art of eating, because it turns out how you eat can be just as important as what you eat. All right, so our journey starts with this really big idea from the Bhagavad Gita. The concept is that everything in nature, and that includes our food, is influenced by one of 3 distinct modes, or qualities. Understanding these 3 modes is, well, it's the foundation for everything else. So the first and really the ideal mode is called Satvic. Think of it as the mode of goodness. It's a state of being that's all about purity, happiness, mental clarity, and compassion. This is the goal, right? The balanced, clear-headed state that this whole philosophy is aiming for. This table lays it out perfectly. On one end, you have Satvic, which is linked to fresh, juicy, wholesome foods. Then in the middle, you've got Rajasic, the mode of passion. This state is fueled by foods that are, a little too much, too salty, too sour, too spicy. That kind of overstimulation leads to restlessness, anxiety, even anger. And finally, you have Tamasic, the mode of ignorance. This is tied to foods that are stale, leftover, or heavily processed. Basically, food that lacks any life force. And eating them just weighs you down, bringing on laziness, fatigue, and just apathy. The key takeaway here? The food you choose is actively pushing you toward one of these states of being.
And the consequences of these choices are, well, they're huge. Satvic foods are literally healing foods. Because they're so easy to digest, your body's energy is freed up to repair and restore itself. And that brings that mental clarity and calmness. Now, on the flip side, a diet that's heavy in Rajasic and Tamasic foods doesn't just damage your physical health, it directly messes with your mind, stirring up things like anxiety, restlessness, and that feeling of mental fog.
So you might be thinking, okay, I get the philosophy, but how do I actually do this? Well, it all boils down to 4 really simple but powerful principles that create a framework for everything you eat. And there's a super easy acronym to remember them. LWPW. The food we eat should be living, wholesome, plant-based, and water-rich. Simple, right? Let's break down what each of those actually means. First up, L for living. This is all about the difference between foods that have life energy, or prana, and foods that don't. The book gives a perfect example. If you plant a wheat seed, it grows into a plant. It has life. Now try planting a wheat noodle. Nothing's going to happen. It's a dead food. The same goes for anything that's been heavily processed, packaged, or even cooked more than 3 hours ago. That vital life force is just gone. Next, W for wholesome. The idea here is that nature gives us food as a whole package deal. It gives us brown rice, not polished white rice. It gives us whole dates, not refined white sugar. See the pattern? When we start breaking food apart, stripping the bran from rice, for example, we're not just getting rid of fiber. We're actually removing the very tools that nature put in there to help our bodies digest it properly in the first place. The third principle is P for plant-based. Now, the book makes its case here by looking straight at human anatomy. Just look at this table. It argues that our flat teeth, our really long intestines, and our much weaker stomach acid, they look nothing like a carnivore's. In fact, they look almost identical to a natural herbivore's. So the conclusion drawn from this in the book is that our bodies are just not designed to digest meat efficiently.
And that brings us to our final principle. It all starts by recognizing a huge problem with the way we eat today. We're told to drink tons of water, but the food we're actually eating is incredibly dry. Our diets are dangerously dehydrated. For most of us, our plate looks something like this. About 70% of our food is water poor, things like grains, lentils, and all kinds of processed snacks. And only about 30% comes from water-rich foods, like fruits and vegetables. It's completely backwards. The book uses this great analogy. Just like a plant that doesn't get enough water, our bodies start to dry up, leading to things like stiff joints and inflexibility.
So you guessed it, the 4th principle, water-rich, is all about flipping that ratio on its head. The goal is to make our diet mirror our body's own composition, which is about 70% water. That means 70% of our food should be naturally water-rich, like fruits and veggies, and only 30% should come from those denser, water-poor foods. It just makes sense, doesn't it? Okay, so we've covered the what to eat, but we're not done yet. This final section gets into the art of Satvic eating, because the timing and the combinations of your food can literally make or break your digestion.
To make this super easy to understand, the book uses a brilliant analogy. I want you to think of your digestive system like it's a washing machine. For it to work right, it has to go through its complete sequence of cycles. And those cycles are digestion, which is like the wash cycle, assimilation, the rinse cycle, and elimination, the final spin cycle. Now here's the problem. Most of us throw another load of laundry, another meal, into the machine before the spin cycle is even done. And when that happens, the last meal never gets fully processed, leaving behind undigested gunk or toxins in our system. Here's another really helpful way to think about it, this time for food combining. Imagine your digestive tract is a highway. And just like a real highway, not everything on it moves at the same speed. Get this, fruits are like the zippy little scooters on the highway. They fly through your system in about 3 hours. Vegetables are like cars, taking around 6 hours. But grains, beans, and nuts, they are the big, slow-moving trucks, and they can take a full 18 hours to get through. So what do you think happens when you eat a slow truck, like rice, right after a fast scooter, like a piece of fruit? You get a massive traffic jam in your gut. Everything gets backed up and starts to ferment. So to avoid these digestive traffic jams, the book lays out a few simple laws of the road. First, since grains are those slow-moving trucks, only eat them once per day. Second, never mix 2 different kinds of trucks in the same lane, meaning don't eat rice and chapati in the same meal. And third, a big one, never eat fruit with or right after a cooked meal. Let those scooters have their own open road, either as a separate meal or at least 30 minutes before anything else. We're going to end with this really powerful quote cited in the book. It forces us to see every meal as something more than just ingredients. It's a choice, a fundamental choice between foods that fill us with life energy and foods that, well, having been killed, slowly do the same to us. So the real question is, what will your next meal be a vote for? Life or something else?